Not every smile is a blessing. Some smiles belong to faces that conceal heavy shadows. What you thought was loyalty may, over time, reveal itself as betrayal. The truth about people closest to you doesn't always emerge through what they say. Instead, it leaks through their presence, their behaviors, and the way your inner being reacts when they enter the room. This is not about superstition or paranoia. It is about understanding that spiritual conflict often hides behind ordinary relationships. You have felt this before. That uneasy heaviness when someone arrives. That draining fatigue after a conversation. That strange anxiety you cannot explain once you leave them. It is more than bad habits or negative traits. Sometimes it is evidence of something much deeper. If you have ever asked yourself, why do I always feel worse after being around this person? That is already the whisper of truth. We are not speaking about imaginary ghosts. We are speaking of the unseen energy some people carry. A force that manipulates, confuses, and silently corrodes from within. Today, I want to reveal 10 undeniable signs that help you identify hidden forces at work through those who call themselves friends or family. And this knowledge matters, because what is at stake is more than your peace. It is your very spirit. There are people in your life who do not need to raise their voice or physically harm you. Just standing beside them drains your strength like a hole in a leaking vessel. You walk in feeling fine, perhaps even hopeful, but leave with your joy deflated and your inner calm disturbed. You rationalize it. You tell yourself they may be stressed, or maybe you are too sensitive. But your inner compass is louder than excuses. It knows when something is off. These are individuals who rarely pour back into you. Instead, they pull from you endlessly. They demand your attention, your time, your care, and your energy. It is always their problems, their frustrations, their storms. Somehow you are forced into the role of caretaker without ever giving permission. They unload their burdens onto you and leave you struggling under the weight. And this is not only emotional exhaustion, it is spiritual depletion. You cannot see it with your eyes, but your inner being can feel it. These are people who wear the mask of closeness, but are unknowingly or knowingly feeding off your light. It is a kind of spiritual parasitism. Some may not even realize they are doing it, but the danger remains the same. Stop asking yourself whether you are too sensitive. Begin asking why your soul raises alarms around certain people. That unrest is a signal, not a mistake. Your energy is currency, and not everyone deserves access to it. After every interaction, check your spirit. Do you walk away lighter or heavier, encouraged or empty, whole or fragmented? Remember, darkness does not always appear with horns or flames. Sometimes it smiles warmly, speaks softly, and calls you family. But if every interaction leaves you more distant from your peace, your sense of purpose, or your inner strength, then you must admit the truth. This is not just an unhealthy relationship. It is a form of spiritual sabotage, and the solution is not to fight them, argue, or desperately try to change them. The solution is to reclaim your power by stepping away. Your spirit already knows what your mind is trying to deny. Every person in your circle is good for your soul. Some are actually feeding on it. Guard your spirit as though your life depends on it, because it does. These forces do not always strike directly. Sometimes they operate through whispers, bending truth until it fractures trust. Like a serpent coiling silently, they weave themselves into your bonds, suffocating them until life has gone out of them. They rarely lie outright. Instead, they twist reality just enough to plant doubt in your heart. They might say, I don't want to start anything, but maybe you should be careful with them, or I just think they're not being genuine. Simple phrases, subtle suggestions, but each one is designed to plant suspicion, to create cracks in the foundation of your trust. Over time, those cracks widen, isolating you from those who actually protect your spirit. And once they succeed in separating you, you become dependent upon them, easier to control, easier to influence. This is how hidden forces operate, not with open hostility, but with quiet distortion. They stir the pot just enough, then step back and pretend they had nothing to do with the chaos that follows. They know that if they can fracture your support system, they can shape your perception of reality. Soon, you begin questioning people who once proved their loyalty. You start doubting your own clarity, and without realizing it, you begin to adopt the twisted version of truth they feed you. That is spiritual warfare disguised as conversation. The most dangerous part, these people often present themselves as deeply loyal, even protective. They assure you they care. They tell you they are just being honest. But beneath the surface, they are sowing seeds of poison between you and your peace. Soon you begin to notice that your world feels heavier. You find yourself second-guessing solid relationships. And strangely, the same person is always in the middle of the fracture. That is not coincidence. That is intentional disruption. Demonic influence does not always shout. It whispers, it gaslights, it charms, it divides. When you see a person who constantly points out flaws in others but never owns their own mistakes, be mindful. When someone consistently creates division but never resolution, know this: their goal is not your protection, is your isolation. And once you are isolated, you are controlled. Wake up to this truth. Protect your relationships, but more importantly, protect your mind from voices disguised as concern. Some celebrate not your healing, but your weakness. Pay attention. They stand by you when you are broken, quick to comfort you when you have nothing left. But as soon as you rise, when you begin to rebuild confidence, when you start stepping into clarity, their tone changes, their support grows thin, their comments become sarcastic, or they dismiss your progress as insignificant. Why? Because your strength threatens the illusion they hold over you. Your growth reminds them of their own lack of progress. When you are broken, they feel powerful. When you stand tall, they feel small. This is the reality. They never truly loved you. They loved the version of you that made them feel bigger. They loved the version that depended on them, that doubted itself, that sought their approval. But when you begin setting boundaries, when you start dreaming larger, when you step into your true purpose, they can no longer hide their unease. Their jealousy might come disguised as humor. They mock your goals. They belittle your achievements. They disguise resentment as advice. They might say things like, "Don't forget where you came from," not to remind you of humility, but to shrink you back into a place where they feel comfortable. And that is how you recognize what you are facing is not just a person, but a spirit that fears your light. A spirit that feeds on insecurity. A spirit that applauds your pain, but dreads your progress. Watch carefully how people respond to your healing. Anyone who feels more comfortable with your weakness than with your empowerment is not a friend. True love will not only sit with you in pain, it will stand with you in power. One of the clearest signs you are dealing with destructive energy is how someone treats your boundaries. These individuals do not misunderstand your limits, they disregard them entirely. You say no, but to them, it sounds like negotiation. You ask for space, and they step closer. You explain you are busy, and they insist on your time anyway. Each boundary you set becomes a challenge for them to cross. This is not miscommunication. It is spiritual violation. When someone repeatedly tramples over the protective lines you draw, they are revealing that they value not your peace, but their access to you. And access without respect is exploitation. Such people carry a sense of entitlement. They believe they are owed your time, your presence, your emotional energy, even when you are running on empty. They disguise it as care, but beneath it is control. Boundaries threaten them, because boundaries mean limits. And limits mean they cannot freely pull from you anymore. So they test, pushing little by little, waiting for you to collapse as you may have in the past. They play the guilt card. They say things like, "You've changed," or "You're being distant." Not because they miss you, but because they can no longer use you. Remember this: boundaries not only protect your peace, they reveal who never honored it in the first place. If someone reacts to your boundaries with anger, passive aggression, or emotional withdrawal, understand that their relationship with you was never about mutual respect. It was about what they could extract from you. And when you finally take back your spiritual sovereignty, they feel as though you have attacked them because, in their world, your availability has always been their measure of your worth. But let it be clear, you owe no one unlimited access to your spirit, especially those who continually consume your energy and leave nothing behind. Hidden forces do not always come with violence. Sometimes they wear you down through persistence, through constant erosion of your boundaries, until you no longer feel strong enough to say no. But hear me well, your time is precious, your peace is sacred, your presence is not a right, it is a privilege. Begin guarding your life like a kingdom. Place gates where others demand shortcuts, because those who try to break through without permission are not friends, they are intruders. Another tactic often used against you is imitation, copying your identity, only to turn others against you. At first it appears flattering. They mirror your words, your style, your behavior, even your values. You think, this is admiration, they see me as an example. But slowly you realize it is not about honoring you, it is about replacing you. They adopt your essence like a costume. They laugh like you, speak like you, create like you, and while you are still adjusting to this mimicry, they are already weaving narratives behind your back, whispering to others that perhaps you are not who you claim to be, casting shadows on your character while using the version of you they copied as a standard to measure you against. This is more than jealousy. It is identity theft on a spiritual level. It is not simply a person lacking originality. It is a darker force feeding on your uniqueness. It imitates because it cannot create. It steals because it cannot shine on its own. And when it realizes it cannot outgrow your light, it seeks to dim you through sabotage. Suddenly, people you once trusted grow distant. Misunderstandings multiply. Doubts spread. And you wonder, why does everyone see me differently now? The truth is, someone has turned your own reflection into a weapon against you. That is psychological warfare cloaked in admiration. But, remember, counterfeits cannot endure the test of time. Truth always outlasts imitation. Stay anchored in your authentic self. Do not chase after proving who you are. Stand still, because your authenticity will expose every fraud eventually. Protect your identity, because spiritually, it is your greatest treasure. Another tool they wield is guilt, not love, not respect, but guilt. A leash of manipulation designed to keep you tethered long after the relationship should have ended. They remind you of favors they once did, of loyalty they supposedly gave, or of how devastated they would be if you ever left. Their aim is not healing. It is possession. They say things like, after everything I've done for you, you're really going to leave me. They craft sentences that dig deep into your compassion, because they know your empathy is your soft spot. They take your natural kindness and twist it into chains. You begin to feel that walking away makes you selfish, heartless, or ungrateful even when staying is draining the very life from you. But recognize this, guilt is not proof of love. It is a manipulation tactic. Real love does not trap you. Real love uplifts, encourages, and frees you. Guilt, however, is a prison disguised as loyalty. A manipulative spirit will never say thank you, but it will always say, how could you? They depend on your inability to walk away, knowing you fear being misunderstood or labeled uncaring. But it is not your job to carry what others refuse to heal. You are not their savior. You are not their sacrifice. These people will never admit it, but they do not want resolution. They want access. They do not want partnership. They want possession. And as long as guilt weighs on your shoulders, you remain trapped in a cage built by their words. Break free from that illusion. Do not confuse emotional blackmail with loyalty. It is spiritual abuse in disguise. If you continue giving permanent access to people who thrive only when you feel guilty enough to stay, you will slowly lose yourself. Release the guilt. Allow yourself to grow. Because choosing peace over manipulation is not abandonment, it is survival. Another sign is unexplainable anxiety, triggered in their presence. You may be sitting quietly, and suddenly your chest tightens, your heart races, or your thoughts scatter into chaos. Outwardly, everything looks normal. They smile, they laugh, they act kind, yet your soul trembles. That is not paranoia, that is discernment. Your body responds to vibrations you cannot logically explain. This anxiety does not come from argument or conflict. It comes from spiritual misalignment. You may dismiss it, call yourself overreactive, or convince yourself it is nothing. But your inner wisdom knows better. These individuals often carry heavy energy, masked in charm. They can speak gently, even show care, but the energy underneath them is restless, envious, manipulative, and your spirit picks up on it before your mind does. Every encounter leaves you doubting yourself, second-guessing decisions, or feeling dimmed inside. When anxiety repeatedly rises around the same person, that is not coincidence. It is your inner alarm telling you, you are not safe here. Do not silence that warning. Trust it. Because protecting your peace is not optional. It is vital to your survival. Never apologize for stepping away from energy that unsettles your soul even if nothing obvious seems wrong. The unseen world speaks louder than the visible dot. Another way hidden forces reveal themselves is in how people react to your pain and your progress. Pay attention closely, because this is one of the most revealing tests. There are individuals who secretly delight in your struggles. They will not always laugh out loud when you fall, but their silence, their subtle smirks, or their dismissive comments tell you everything. When you are broken, when your heart is shattered, when your plans collapse, they appear calm, even entertained. They offer shallow sympathy, sometimes even jokes disguised as tough love, but they are never truly invested in your healing. Now watch what happens when your life begins to rise again. When you regain clarity, when your confidence returns, when opportunities start opening before you, their energy shifts. Suddenly they are distant, sarcastic, or critical. They no longer clap for your victories. Instead, they downplay your progress, question your motives, or suggest you are becoming arrogant. Why? Because your rise threatens the fragile sense of superiority they have built over you. As long as you remain broken, they feel big. But when you stand tall, their insecurities are exposed. Their comfort was never in your strength. It was in your weakness. This is the hard truth. They do not love you. They love the broken version of you that made them feel powerful. They loved when you doubted yourself, when you sought their validation, when you lived in a state of need. But when you begin walking in your own worth, when you dream bigger, when you set boundaries, their mask slips. They may try to disguise their jealousy as humor. They mock your ambition. They call your progress temporary or label your dreams unrealistic. They say, don't forget where you came from, not out of genuine care, but as a subtle reminder to shrink back into a box that keeps them comfortable. This is not just insecurity, it's spiritual resistance. A spirit that fears your light will do everything to dim it. It celebrates your wounds, but resents your healing. Anyone who feels more connected to your pain than to your power is not a friend. They are a spiritual liability. True love is not threatened by your growth. Real support does not vanish when you succeed. Love rejoices when you rise, because love is not intimidated by strength, it is fueled by it. Another sign is their reaction to the name of truth, the name of God, or the presence of light. Some people appear fine until you bring light into the room. Mention prayer, mention faith, speak life, and suddenly they shift uncomfortably. They roll their eyes, mock your devotion, or quickly change the subject. Why? Because the light in you exposes what they are trying to keep hidden in the shadows. For them, the name of God is not comfort, it is confrontation. Truth rattles those who live in lies. Light unsettles those who operate in manipulation. They may accuse you of being too spiritual, too deep, too intense. But in reality, what disturbs them is not your words. It is the reflection they see in your conviction. The presence of God in your life puts pressure on the darkness they have learned to tolerate, and so they resist not always with loud attacks, but with sarcasm, avoidance, or jokes meant to silence you. They do not want transformation. They want tolerance for dysfunction. They do not want to confront their demons. They want you to normalize them. But the truth is, this darkness cannot survive where light shines. Demonic energy is allergic to truth. That is why those who are consumed by it flee from conversations that carry power. Watch carefully who withdraws when your faith grows stronger. Watch who mocks when you declare hope. Their reactions are not random. They are spiritual. Do not silence yourself to make them comfortable. Speak boldly anyway. Light does not ask permission to shine. It simply shines. Another sign is subtle but devastating. They consistently leave you further away from yourself. At first it looks like influence. They shape your preferences, alter your opinions, and little by little, you begin to adopt their voice over your own. But over time, you realize the cost is your identity. You begin to question your instincts. You second-guess your dreams. You shrink your vision just to maintain peace with them. What they are doing is not guidance, it is erosion. They do not nurture your authenticity. They mold you into someone easier for them to manage. Your passions seem less urgent. Your voice grows quieter. Your values feel negotiable. They call it just being honest or looking out for you. But what they are truly doing is pulling you away from your inner compass. This is not encouragement. It is disorientation. These individuals carry a spirit that thrives on confusion. They convince you that you are too much, too sensitive, too ambitious, too intense. Eventually, you start censoring your own soul, believing this is the price for keeping peace. But it is not peace. It is suppression. And the longer you stay, the more you lose sight of yourself. You wake up one day and barely recognize who you are. You ask permission to be the very person you were created to be. This is how demonic energy suffocates. It does not always attack violently. Sometimes it simply disconnects you from your true reflection until you are unrecognizable to yourself. And when you finally try to reclaim your voice, they accuse you of betrayal. They call you selfish, cold, or changed. But growth is not betrayal. Returning to your authentic self is not abandonment, it is resurrection. Pay attention to the people who make you feel lost after every encounter. Notice who causes you to doubt what you once knew with clarity. Because those who truly love you will call you back to yourself, not push you further from it. They will water your soul, not drain it dry. Anyone who repeatedly leaves you emptier than they found you is not confused. They are intentional. Their purpose is not to build you, it is to break you down. And the only response is to come home to yourself. Reclaim your identity, realign with your truth, and let anyone who cannot respect that fall away with the lies they tried to weave around you. Your spirit was never designed to live in chains of guilt, fear, or suppression. It was designed to walk in freedom, strength, and clarity. And the moment you choose to honor that truth, the grip of darkness begins to lose its hold. The key lesson is this: not every bond is sacred. Not every smile is safe. Some connections are designed to keep you small, to keep you tied to pain, to keep you blind to your own power. Recognize the patterns, because the moment you do, you reclaim what they fear most, your light. There is another sign that reveals hidden adversaries. They take joy when you cry, but sorrow when you shine. Your pain feeds their sense of importance, while your progress threatens their existence. They may call themselves friends, or even family, but observe carefully. When you are down, when life has broken you, they show up eagerly. They stand close, acting as though they care, but look deeper. Their comfort often carries a strange satisfaction, a hidden relief that you are beneath them once again. They may hide it well, but a subtle smile, a dismissive shrug, or a sarcastic remark betrays them. Your brokenness reassures them that they remain higher. Your tears affirm their false sense of strength. And so, though they appear supportive, they are not celebrating you, they are enjoying their position above you. But the moment you rise, the moment you begin to glow, the moment opportunities open before you, their energy changes. Silence replaces celebration. Mockery replaces encouragement. They twist your progress into arrogance, or they minimize your achievements so they feel bigger beside you. Understand this. These are not ordinary insecurities. These are spiritual adversaries, disguised in familiar faces. Your growth confronts their stagnation. Your light reveals their shadows. And their discomfort is not about you doing too much. It is about you doing what they never dared to do themselves. The truth is, they do not despise you. They despise what you represent: courage, healing, strength, and freedom. They despise the reflection of what they could be if they had chosen discipline over excuses. Your life reminds them of what they fear facing within themselves. This is why your pain is entertainment to them, but your success feels like betrayal. They mourn not your suffering, but their loss of superiority when you rise. Such people were never assigned to walk with you into your becoming. Their role was only to test whether you would remain bound or finally break free. And once you outgrow the identity that kept them comfortable, they begin to retreat, not because they miss you, but because they can no longer control you. Pay attention to who claps when you win and who disappears when you shine. Love does not vanish in the presence of success. True love celebrates your elevation as much as your survival. Another sign, they carry deep discomfort whenever the name of God, truth, or righteousness enters the conversation. They are comfortable with shallow talk, with gossip, with meaningless noise. But the moment you speak life, the moment you bring truth, the moment you call upon faith, their mask cracks. They squirm, shift, mock, or roll their eyes. Why? Because the light you carry exposes the shadows they hide. Truth confronts lies. The presence of God convicts every dark force still clinging within them. For them, His name is not pace, it is fire. It shakes what they thought was safely hidden. They may say things like, "Don't be too religious," or "Not everything is about God." They may accuse you of being too deep or too intense. But this is not about depth. This is about light. Colliding with darkness, those who have chosen to embrace their shadows cannot stand in the presence of light without feeling exposed. Pay attention to those who grow cold when your faith grows hot. Notice those who mock when you mention prayer or divine guidance. Their reaction is not casual, it is spiritual. Demonic energy recoils in the presence of truth. It will never celebrate what threatens its hold. Do not silence your light to make them comfortable. Speak the truth anyway. Shine boldly anyway. Because light does not request permission to exist, it simply shines. And when it does, darkness must flee. Another pattern to watch. They always leave you less connected to yourself than before. Their influence is not neutral, it is subtractive. Over time, their words, their energy, their presence erode your sense of self. You begin to question your instincts, silence your voice, and compromise your values. At first, it may feel like small shifts, agreeing with their opinions more often, adopting their preferences, lowering your standards. But over time, you notice that you are not evolving into a better version of yourself. You are shrinking into someone easier for them to tolerate or control. Your dreams lose urgency. Your passions feel unrealistic. Your voice grows faint. They disguise it as honesty, as concern, as advice. But the truth is they are dismantling your identity brick by brick. They thrive by keeping you confused, uncertain, and dependent. They may label you too much, too sensitive, or too ambitious until you begin censoring yourself for their comfort. But what they call peace is actually suppression. The cost is heavy. The longer you remain tied to such people, the harder it becomes to recognize your true reflection. You begin seeking permission to be who you already are. That is how spiritual sabotage works, not by sudden destruction, but by slow disconnection. And when you finally attempt to reclaim your power, they accuse you of betrayal. They say you have changed. They say you are selfish. But remember, this growth is not betrayal. Returning to your authentic self is not abandonment. It is freedom. Pay attention to who consistently leaves you more lost than found. Notice who makes you doubt what once was clear. Those who truly love you will guide you back to yourself, not away from it. They will nurture your essence, not suffocate it. Anyone who constantly drains, diminishes, or disconnects you from your identity is not mistaken. They are deliberate. Their assignment is not your progress, but your paralysis. And now the choice is yours. You must return home to yourself. Reclaim your identity. Realign with your truth. Allow anyone unwilling to honor that to fall away with the illusions they tried to place upon you. Your spirit was not created to remain trapped in guilt, fear, or chains of manipulation. It was designed for clarity, strength, and purpose. Every time you choose to honor your truth, you weaken the grip of darkness. So protect your soul. Guard your peace. Value your energy. Because not every smiling face is safe. Not every bond is holy. And not every voice is worthy of entrance into your spirit. Recognize the patterns. Trust the warnings. And walk boldly in the light. Because once you see clearly, once you honor what your spirit has been whispering all along, nothing, no manipulation, no false friend, no hidden enemy can take from you the freedom that was always meant to be yours. Your life is too precious to waste on shadows. Your purpose is too sacred to share with those who secretly despise it. Your light is too rare to be dimmed by the insecurities of others. So rise, guard your spirit, and walk forward, knowing that the greatest protection you have is not just walls or words, but the unwavering decision to honor your truth above every lie.